With today's interest rates of 3%, the monthly installment for a $1.5 million condo is 5.2k. You may think that,
Okay, what? As long as I have a combined income of more than 5.2k, I'm good to go.
but wait, it's not that simple. After factoring in TDSR, you will now need a combined monthly income of 10.8k. So what is TDSR and how does it make it harder for us to own a condo in Singapore? Let's find out. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Daryl. In this channel, we demystify real estate topics and make them digestible to the layman. Remember to like and subscribe for more unbiased videos that will help you with your property purchase. In order to understand how TDSR makes it harder for us to own a condo, we first need to understand what is TDSR. TDSR stands for Total Debt Servicing Ratio. In short, it means that all your debt obligations combined cannot exceed 55% of your combined gross monthly income. This applies to all loans, including HDB loans, private home loans, car loans, student loans, credit card loans, and even personal loans. This is an MAS regulation that all banks in Singapore need to adhere to before they can approve your loan. One reason why TDSR exists is to ensure that Singaporeans are not over-leveraged. To understand how TDSR makes home affordability harder, we first need to understand how TDSR affects home loans specifically. As you know, for a HDB loan, your interest rate will be 2.6%, and for a bank loan, it can either be a fixed rate or a floating rate, and more or less depends on the market at that time. For example, the current interest rate for a 2-year fixed package as of June 2024 is around 3%. You would expect that MAS would use this 2.6% or 3% when doing their TDSR calculation. It only makes sense because after all, this is the actual rate that you would be paying, right? But no, it's not that simple. MAS has this concept of a floor interest rate. In short, they will look at the floor interest rate and the actual interest rate and take the higher value to run their TDSR calculations. The floor interest rate for a HDB loan is currently 3%, and the floor interest rate for a bank loan is currently 4%. For example, if you're looking at a private condo, if your actual interest rate is 3%, MAS would actually use 4% instead, as it is the higher of the two values. MAS does this to ensure that even if interest rates rise in the future, borrowers will still not exceed 55% of their monthly income. To really understand how TDSR affects your condo purchase, let's look at some examples. For a $1 million condo, your maximum loan amount will be 750k due to the 75% loan to value limit. With a 3% interest rate, your monthly installment will be 3.1k. However, remember how we mentioned that for TDSR calculations, the interest rate used for the calculation is not the actual rate that you're paying. So for a $1 million property, the interest rate used to do the TDSR calculation is not the 3% that you're actually paying, but rather that will be 4%, and that will bring the installment used for the calculation to be 3.5k. Assuming that you don't have any other loan obligations, this 3.5k must not be more than 55% of your combined gross monthly income. That means that you will need a combined gross monthly income of 6.5k to get a maximum loan approval for a $1 million unit. The numbers for the other quantums are listed here too. Let's look at a $2 million unit as a second example. The monthly installment will be about 6.3k, but with TDSR, you will require a combined gross monthly income of 13.2k to get a maximum loan of 75% approved. To understand why TDSR is affecting your condo purchase ability, we also need to understand why TDSR is even there in the first place. TDSR was introduced back in the year 2013. Initially, the ratio was 60%, but it was then brought down to 55% to tighten borrowing in the year 2021. The floor rate of 3% for HDB loans and 4% for bank loans, which we talked about earlier, was also adjusted in September 2022. It was previously 3.5% for bank loans and 2.6% for HDB loans. TDSR is used to limit borrowing and as a form of control for Singapore's property prices. You can imagine how buyers would be able to borrow excessively without TDSR and speculate on properties and then sell them off for a quick profit afterwards. It also serves as a common framework that all banks use to assess loans. While on the surface it may look like a bad thing, TDSR is actually very helpful for buyers and sellers alike. By ensuring that buyers do not overborrow, it helps to ensure that they are well equipped to handle their monthly installments in the event that interest rates rise or their income drops. This means that buyers will have a certain amount of holding power and will not be forced to sell their property at the first setback. This is very dangerous as it could then cause the entire property market to come tumbling down like a stack of cards. We have seen that TDSR is there to ensure market stability and that buyers are not over leveraged. As a result, there are high income requirements to be met before a property loan can be approved, and that makes it harder to own a condo in Singapore. As we saw from the examples earlier, while a $1 million condo's installment would only be 3.1k, TDSR would require you to have a combined income of 6.5k. And likewise, while a $2 million condo is 6.3k of monthly installment, TDSR will require you to have a combined income of 13k. In this channel, we like to focus on what is within our control. Obviously, the government regulations are things that are out of our control. So let's ask ourselves, what is it then that we can do? So overall, there are 3 things that I think that we can focus on when it comes to TDSR. The first thing that you can do is to understand the different workarounds when it comes to TDSR. For example, if you happen to have more cash on hand, you could place a higher down payment. That would reduce your overall loan quantum, which would in turn reduce your monthly installment, and which would in turn reduce the amount of combined income that you need to have monthly. You could also show proof to the bank that you have a sufficient pool of cash, or make a purchase of the bank's products like a fixed deposit. This is called a show of funds or pledging and would help you with getting approval for a loan quantum that would otherwise not be possible. These workarounds are geared more towards those who happen to be cash rich but may have a lower combined monthly income, such as retirees. Another more cheeky alternative is to set up your loans so that they can be excluded from the TDSR calculations. But I won't disclose too much about this here right now. I would just say subscribe for more tips like this. As these tips are not applicable to everyone, let's move on to the more generic tips. The second thing that you can do is to do an early loan assessment with either HDB or the banks. If it is HDB, this will be in the form of a HDB flat eligibility letter or HFE. If it is a private property, this will be an in-principle approval of the loan based on your current debt obligations and your income. This could be an AIP or IPA, which stands for an in-principle approval. It gives you a ballpark figure of what the bank is willing to lend you so that you can do your necessary financial planning. Just a note here that different banks may agree to lend you a different amount, so it is worth doing an AIP with multiple different banks. Also a note here that the AIP and the HFE letter has an expiry date, so there's no point doing it too early as well. A good time frame is probably around 6 months. This helps you to manage your expectations and helps you to know what kind of budget you are working with. The third and the last thing you can do is to spend time understanding the different government regulations. You can do this by either following the news or speaking to other home buyers who have been through the process before you. Or if you want simple and layman explanations, you can click the subscribe button for more videos like this. So that wraps up the topic of TDSR. If you want to see how this topic ties into the larger topic of financial planning, you can check out my videos up here as well. Otherwise, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.